I'm not alone today. I'm joined by Johanna Amnia. The is a software engineer, and he's from Namibian Optimist Investment. Johanna, good morning.
Morning, morning. How are you?
I'm very fine. I'm not sure whether I've introduced you properly, but maybe you can do introduction. You can introduce yourself better.
All right, 100%. So my name is Joanna Munyela, and I am from Noi Coding Kids. Noi stands for Namibian Optimist Investments, and I'm a software engineer by profession. We teach children how to write computer code, or basically write and build games. Yeah, in a nutshell. That's roughly it. Yeah.
Yeah, but today we are not talking about coding.
No, not today.
Today we'll be talking about the how do we transform internet into a place of trust.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, if you look at what the pandemic has done, which is COVID-19, it has basically pushed a lot of people to use technological solutions. And this means that we have a lot of people online. Now, there's what you call cyber criminals, and they've also taken notice of this. And what they want to do is to basically try and make money off this large volumes of people that are online. So you don't really trust being online anymore, as you should. But there are preventative measures that we can do or take to make it a bit easier for you to navigate online.
Well, in these cyber criminals who come online and we say we want to, they say they want, is there any cyber, how do we tell that these are cyber criminals? What are the signs to show us that these are those guys?
Very good question. It's a vast number of entities. Why I say entities is that the cyber criminal does not necessarily mean that they're a human being. It could be a malicious software that's fishing for your information somehow. Okay.
But how do we now tell between the difference between a malicious and a genuine software?
There are ways to tell. Let's say when you are using, let's say, online banking, or you're using a site where you use your own personal information, normally check in the left-hand corner. There's a little lock that shows you that this site is secure. And additionally to that, you'd also go to the extent of looking at the URL. The URL is the path that you type in, that www. The site's name.com or .com.na. Now at the beginning there's what you call a protocol, which is called HTTP. Just make sure that that HTTP protocol has an S additionally to it. That means the site is secure. If it's just HTTP, then that means the site is not secure, and you must be cautious when you're entering your information on it.
So HTTP is hypertext
transfer protocol.
Yes, hypertext transfer protocol.
Yes.
Well, so because you see in some cases where people buy things online, and then without knowing their banking details or whatever information is saved there.
Yes.
And then you just bought once, but it keeps deducting from your account.
100.
Yeah. So, but how do I now make sure that there is no autosave because some things are just done in the background where I'm not aware.
Very true. And basically they always give you an option, and this is one thing that we do as users. I would have to say this, we're very ignorant. Sometimes if you read properly, you would see that there would be a checkbox or a way of giving permission to them to do that automatic payment. And usually we're very lazy, so you're like, you know what, it's fine, I don't want to do the necessary nitty-gritties of making the payment every month. Let it just be automatic. But this is putting you at risk.
Or you just agree
Yeah.
with terms and conditions
Terms and
without
conditions, check.
without having gone through them.
100%.
And then at the end of the day, you cry because they keep deducting.
Yes. What I would advise is that have different accounts. Don't use your main account online. Okay, that's one tip. So try and have an extra debit account. Go to your bank, create another account that's maybe a credit account, or it could be any account that works online, Visa, MasterCard. Use that account rather. So transfer money to that account, and you use that account specifically for your online shopping and everything else.
Now let's get. Okay, now we are talking about it from the technical side
Yes.
of things,
Mm-hmm.
and there is a layperson side of the story. Those who are just having accounts on Facebook
Yes.
and they just comment, and of course write stuff,
Yes.
but without necessarily having to be cyber criminals as per se,
Mm-hmm.
but they take part in one or two things that threatens the freedom of others, and other people don't want to be part of internet anymore because they look at it as a bullying site. How do we make them understand that what bullying is actually a crime?
Okay, how I would explain that is we're human beings and we're emotional beings, and that basically means that even if you're online, it does not necessarily mean that you are safe from all the other normal things that people do in real life, which is now bullying, or what is this that they call when a video goes out, for lack of a better word, basically you're exposed. And what I would advise is be cautious of what you do online. There's what you call digital footprint. So everything that you put online sits on a certain server and it's saved there. All right. So with this information being there, be cautious of what you put out there. To be directly, let's see if I look at now bullying, to be quite specific, online bullying, it just applies just like normal bullying in real life. Sometimes you just need to learn to ignore certain things. Let's say some comments are very nasty, you just need to ignore them. It doesn't necessarily mean that you need to give feedback to it. All right. So try as much as possible to ignore it. If it really is bothering you, go an extra mile and talk to someone about it and find advice on it. Yeah.
Wow, because we hear a lot of people bullying each other, and there are also tribal comments that are being passed online there, regionalism and all that stuff.
Yes.
And internet becomes an unsafe place for some people, and they feel attacked.
True.
Yeah. So that's what we can say, that how do we now transform it to be from being a site where people feel threatened into a site where people can enjoy peace and harmony?
Okay. I don't think there's rocket science to it. It's normal human behavior. People will bully you. What you should do is, fortunately, on some of these social sites, there's blocking. If you see someone starting to behave a certain way, block them. Practice preventative measures, and if there's attacks, block the people. Make sure you unfollow them. Don't befriend people online that look malicious. Right? So go to those extra extent of putting extra measures in place. Let's say like on Facebook, look at who's viewing your profile. How are they viewing your profile? Constantly review who's your friends and remove some if necessary, if need be. just like in normal life. If I see that this group of friends is really, really not beneficiary to my state of being, what should I do? I start falling out. I don't hang with them anymore. I don't go to places where they go. So practice the same thing. Block, remove them, unfollow, yeah, and review your friends and put restrictions. These things can only be seen by a certain few. Personally, I do it myself in terms of like my WhatsApp. There's a certain select few that are allowed to view my WhatsApp status. It's not everybody that's in my phone. So I consciously and consistently every day check and remove people, and yeah. So
Wow. So that's the only. So that's the only way we can curb being threatened online.
it works well.
Mm.
It most probably not the only way, but right now, off the bat, it really works well to just manage your online presence just as much as you manage your physical presence. Same concept applies.
Yeah, but some people fail to manage their physical presence, which escalates in you
Into
failing
your
to manage your
Online
your
presence.
online presence,
Then
and then it becomes problem.
very much that's a remedy for disaster. So I encourage, if you are very ignorant with your personal presence, please, it's time to look at it. It's time to start reviewing and recapping your contacts, because you are who you spend your time around.
Yes.
Mm.
Wow. So, but there are groups, the dubious groups that are, dubious people who infiltrate on save groups,
Yes.
where you buy stuff, and somebody can even go to an extent of sending you their ID, their fake ID, yeah, a photo of their ID and all that, and then you send the money, and then from there, that's it.
Yes, it happens a lot, and you have to be cautious. I cannot stress this enough. You have to personally be cautious. There is no magic way of doing it. You just need to be very cautious, and you need to use all the preventative measures that are there. So let's say somebody they're selling something, okay? Yes, you're interested to buy it, but put extra measures in place. Say, I'm not willing to transfer money before I see the product.
Yeah.
Okay. And I want us to meet in an area where there's a lot of people, so that there's support. Maybe if it's in a little dark corner, then they can rob you and pull out a knife or something like that. So rather opt to meet in places where you can sit at a table and there's people around, and also additionally again, take precautions to go with somebody else as extra support in terms of security. So don't go there alone, and yeah, preventative measures is the only way. Yes.
Because there is no method that is correct that can be used to say this is how you tell this is a fake selling person. Because some people online have gone to say you pay including shipping.
Yes.
And then you pay everything cash at upfront, and the items never come.
100. Again, in cases like that, when it's fully online, I'd advise that you have to look at, you have to find how to trust these sites. Okay. What do I mean by that? I normally would also import a few stuff, and some e-commerce sites online I've never used before, but they have a product that I would want to use. So I don't go there and spend money that I will be sad losing. So I'll try and test if they will really deliver. So I'd maybe buy something that's worth $100. Okay, just because I want to buy maybe in bulk, and I'm gonna spend, let's say, for argument's sake, $10,000. So I'd rather test first by buying something for $100 and adding the shipping cost. Maybe it will cost me roughly $300, and see if how do they handle their process of getting the product to you.
And you also check the desperation.
Yes, as well.
If somebody is too desperate,
Yeah,
that send the money now, we
Yeah.
want to do, then you tell that
already. Yeah.
this is something else.
So try and test it with money that you can lose. I don't know if that's the right way. 'Cause
Yeah,
if-
that the money that you are able to lose
Yeah.
without being, without having much of regret.
yes.
But we are tapping from you as a software engineer.
Mm.
We are tapping into your experience. What more can you tell us?
What more can I tell you in terms of internet security?
Yes.
In terms of passwords, that's really one area that I noticed I personally as well can be ignorant. And nowadays that we're doing almost everything online, you'll end up having a lot of accounts. One account with Google, one account with YouTube, several accounts, and you have passwords to remember. And usually as a human being, you don't want to remember 100 passwords, right? So you'd always want to use one specific password. And it's maybe your birthday or your name plus a few characters, and normally this exposes you. All right, so what I would advise is that try and create a password with a storyline. What do I mean by that? When you create your password, it's like every character stands for something, so you kind of create a story with it. Let's say AGOT at 5 a.m. So you would normally remember that by saying apples grow on trees at 5 a.m. Okay, so you kind of create a storyline. So when you're typing in the password, you're remembering it because you're telling yourself a story, but it's characters, right? So it's easy to remember. And for the many sites that you go to, just add additionally, say maybe at Facebook, apples grow on trees at 5 a.m. By not Facebook the word, but the F. You just add it as an extra character in the front. Or you could use Amazon, AAG, and then it continues. So you would say Amazon, apples grow on trees at 5 a.m.
Yeah.
Yeah, so those are tricks that you can use that could help you make sure that you have a secure password, and in the same time you can remember it. Another trick I'd add to password concerns is that you can actually use your other accounts to log into certain sites, and this is one thing that engineers are trying to do, basically give you a one point of access. So you could use your Google account to log into your YouTube account, to log into your any other site that you'd want to be you're interested in.
Yeah. Because then the Google account, their password, you already know the password.
Yeah, and they've encrypted it to a certain level.
It is easy for you to enter. To enter it because you know it.
Yes.
Now, the issue of forgetting password is the one that actually the main culprit to people not wanting to enter different passwords for different accounts.
Yes.
And this is a challenge not only to the ones that are listening, but I can admit to say I don't like having a lot of passwords.
Yes.
And there is another thing. How can we have, because this is, why do they put on an autosave? A website will say, do you want this to remember your password?
Normally when a developer is creating a site, you want to offer a user the best experience. And that includes things like making sure that you don't necessarily need to always remember your password, so that makes it a bit more comfortable and comforting for you to use the site all the time. You don't necessarily need to log in all the time. Once you go in the browser, it shows up for you. But it's risky. As much as it's comfortable, it's risky. And I'd rather advise that you use that for sites that you don't really use your personal information on. You don't want to save or auto-save your password for your banking site.
Yeah.
You don't even need a hacker. Somebody from your house can just come in, log into your bank account, transfer money to their account. They go splash it. By the time you realize, the money is gone. And it's a fight in the house. Yeah, so it just practice caution. And some things are worth taking, others are not. Just 90 seconds of putting in your password. That's all, and you're safe.
Yeah, unless maybe if you are entirely sure that you are the only user of that device
Yes.
on which
That's all.
you want to save the password,
Mm.
because otherwise it will to be problem.
Yes.
Now, this issue of internet safety is one that is spoken about, and we are struggling in Africa for countries, especially like countries like ours in Namibia, to have a very articulate cyber law.
Yes.
But people, software engineers such as you are, what are you doing to assist government in coming up with a correct and trustworthy and protective cyber, just to say cyber control?
Okay. For me personally, a friend of mine, a good friend of mine, I had asked to nominate me for the Internet Society.
Yes.
And I just got an email last week, or was it early this week? Can't remember correctly, but I got an email that I was selected to be part of the Internet Society. And I am hoping that I can make a difference in that space. I haven't really worked with any government institutions directly to offer my advice or experience, not as yet, but I'm looking forward to that opportunity to try and make a difference in that area. Yes.
Well, it is 3 minutes to the hour of 12 o'clock, and I'm joined in studio by Johanna Mnyela. He's a software engineer. We used to say, maybe there are no engineers, yeah, but here we are. We have a lot of software engineers and computer scientists. So if you are listening in and you want to call and make a comment to what she's saying, or make a question and ask a question, our number in studio is 083-288-8401. 083-288-8401. That's the number in studio. And we are actually having her for 10 more minutes before we release her to go and do her other, to go and attend to her other commitments. So please use this time to call in and just have a conversation while she's still in studio with us. Now, but what difference do you want to make once you be part, because now you are going to be part of the Internet Society?
Yes. The biggest or my main area of focus is the rural areas, and the fact that we don't have a network that can cater to data. I earlier mentioned that I have an organization, Noikoring Kids, and we teach children how to write computer code. So I would love to reach children from all corners of Namibia, not necessarily only children in areas where there's good Wi-Fi connection and good network. So if we could reach children from all corners of Namibia, that would please me. So yeah.
So, but these children, do you have a place where to accommodate them, or you will do a mobile? You will be moving from one town to the other.
If, with the influence of the internet society, we could get to a place where we can establish affordable networks that can run data. Right now, I think we only have 2G or less in the remote areas.
Yes.
And that is limiting. A child cannot log in and watch a YouTube video. So I could easily teach children from Windhoek, if they have 3G network in, let's say, in a Kunene region somewhere in the mountains. So if we can try and find a cost-effective way to push for networks around the nation, then I think I'd be very pleased.
So what G do you want to put there in the rural areas?
At the moment, not to be too ambitious, even a 3G network would work very well. 4G ideal. 5G we're not there yet. So yeah,
Actually, 5G is a must feared.
very much. There's a lot of misinformation
It's
around it.
a must feared thing.
Mm.
But now, how do we come to the level of containing misinfos, or what they call infodemics,
Yes.
on social media platforms?
A few social media platforms have created what you call certification or verification. So they basically verify someone to say, okay, this content is purely coming from this professional or this specific person. So you should just look out to see whatever information you're getting, is that person verified to be a specialist in their area?
Yeah.
And or is it just a mere opinion from someone? Yeah.
But how do we differentiate how do we differentiate between just mere opinion that I'm making, not necessarily that I want to spread misinformation,
Yes.
just because I'm also misinformed,
Yes.
and with somebody genuinely want to misinform people? How do we draw the line between that?
It's tricky. It's very tricky. It's really hard to draw the line, but what I would always say is try and look at 3 and 4 sources about the topic that's being said, or whatever's being discussed. Look at a few other people's opinions and try and draw a line in between there.
We have a call on the line. Eagle FM, good afternoon.
Yes, correct. Afternoon, sir. Thank you.
Those are the kind of things that we're talking about, those learning materials. So now, if that is the case, how are we? Because I heard at one point here, there were those kids of 14, 9-year-old, 10-year, they were bring billions into their national coffers.
Yes.
By watching those comics and all those YouTube things that when we put these things for the children to watch. So now I say it's so those kind of products that you are now saying, the ones that we are having now going on, because when you go to those children things, you see those comics and what, are those ones really, maybe their content, is it Namibian content? And if not, I don't know, maybe because that space is really shared by the young entrepreneurs, the young ones, who have studied those software engineers and all those computers and things like that. So the other thing that I wanted to say, now on those guys cyber bullying, because you are talking about the nature, the behavior change and things like that. Those who are bullying others, especially on the platform like this. You know, there are also people who are bullying others either by their opinion, their perception, their opinion, and by trying to also make their theory or their perspective known. But then they end up bullying others. Even journalists, we have seen some kind of indication and study showing that there are also journalists who try to bully, let's say, others. Maybe by way of crafting their quizzes or by way of restricting them. There are a lot of things. So I'm not talking about the social media now. The issue is how do we conduct our
Yeah.
do that, man. Definitely happy by it. Because you are a mother and I really love you and I'm sure you're going to represent Namibia.
Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you very much, Uncle
Thank you,
Bano.
sir.
Yes, so those are
As a few.
the few things that you can maybe touch on.
All right. To touch on what we teach children, at Noi Coding Kids, we teach children how to write computer code and how to create with technology, how to assemble their own PCs. So basically, we don't teach them how to use YouTube or how to use social media or just to mention a
Or
few.
those videos where you say if you watch this, some money comes into your account.
Yes.
Mm.
So basically, what we do is we teach them how to create solutions.
Mm.
All right. Be it a game, be it a website, be it a web application. We teach them. We give them the tools, the necessary tools to kind of guide their creativity to create these solutions.
Yeah.
Okay. And he mentioned something that I took note of, and that is when he mentioned that children bring not only children though, but in terms of the Namibian population, it's very small. And even if you want to go into entrepreneurship and you want to build a business, your target market is small to make billions, like the next person that has the same idea like yours in another nation that has a larger population. And what I would advise is, if you look at all the countries in the world that have a small population, how did they build their economies? Mostly they focused on technology, and they would reach other markets because the world has become a global village right now.
Yes.
So they would reach other markets with the solutions that they've created. And that could be one area that we as entrepreneurs can look at exploring. So look at putting your products online and creating e-commerce sites that could bring you revenue from other nations. Don't just restrict yourself to the local market. The bullying. I'm not a bully expert. But yes, as a mother, ethics, very important. Let's teach our children ethics. Let's teach our children how to be sensitive to other people's views and opinions and other people's feelings. All right. So it starts really at home. And if all of us are doing it, meaning that we're teaching our children ethics and we're teaching our children how to be a bit sensitive and not just to be bold and what is this cunning when you're saying your opinion. I think your t-shirt is so and so, and not taking into consideration empathy and how the other person would receive it. So that could be one thing that we can look at. Another thing in terms of bullying is that I always want to empower the person being bullied more than the bully.
Yeah.
I when I try to resolve bullying issues in my personal life, I always try and empower the victim, not to have a victim mentality. People are gonna come at you, and sometimes you can't do anything about it. So how you receive it and perceive it is up to you. Okay, unless it's physical. If it's physical where you're beating me, then that is a different case. So that already constitutes a police case. All right. So but verbal bullying, again, try and block it off. I'd always advise to block it off, or try and find a way of viewing it differently. Try and see from what point are they coming from. Normally people would bully you based on their own internal issues and or whatever they feel inadequate within themselves, and try and look at it from that angle. Find a different view on it, and you'd be able to forgive them within what they're doing, and you wouldn't let it get to you. If I put that right.
That is psychological advice.
Yes.
You have now gone psychological
From technology.
in psychology.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's these things get interwoven
Yes.
at times because life is one thing with different layers on it,
Yes.
and those layers tend to coexist. So, but now, this issue of bullying, because how do I get, because sometimes you don't get enough of groups. You just want to be added from one group to the other. You just want to be added from one group to the other. So, but how does this not contribute to me being bullied? Because I join every group without necessarily having studied what the people are up to.
I have seen a restriction that came on WhatsApp lately. I see it works sometimes it doesn't. Where you're creating a group, and as you invite people, I think it's a setting that you need to do. I'm not too sure about it, but a listener can go an extra mile to research on it. On WhatsApp, if a person's creating a group, I tried creating a group one day and I was trying to add one lady, and it gave me a restriction that no, they're waiting for them to approve. So I think they're also taking into consideration all these things as they mushroom, and they're taking precautions in creating better solutions. And yeah, so then she was complaining, no, you didn't add me to the group. I said, but it said it's waiting for your approval. Then she had to go and approve, and then she was added to the group. So I think it's a setting that we just need to look at, where people can just not add you automatically anymore.
Well, so that is actually because most groups actually wait for approval.
Yes.
You wait for approval. If it is it's a serious group, you wait for approval. So it means they wait for they are putting some things into consideration. But there are those groups that don't wait for approvals. They don't have approval. They just add you.
Yeah.
And then you go in there. It's a group of bullies. And then what you make, the comment you make there, the first day you go in is the first day you leave. Yeah, so I think that's also part of people checking what is the character of the people that I want to deal with.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that is, I think that is what can help.
Yeah. So basically, leaving the group. Yeah.
Yeah. But what, as we draw to an end, because you have to go and do your other commitments, what are your final advice that you should give to listeners as far as the use of internet is concerned, and making it conducive for the other person, and the security that goes with it?
All right. My advice to all the listeners is that the biggest risk when it comes to the internet is your personal identification or ID fraud. You can go into other terms like phishing, where people are trying to get your information and so forth. That's one of the biggest ones. So please protect your information as much as possible. Watch what you publish online. Remember, there's a digital footprint. Whatever you put online is not going to disappear. One day you become the president.
Sorry, there's an automatic ad.
It allows me to
We'll go in after this.
Okay.
Yeah, off air now.
All right, sure.
Yeah, I like your articulation.
Yes.
I hope you are comfortable.
I am.
And I hope this is not the last time.
I hope so too.
Yeah.
T's and C's apply.
Nedbank. See money differently.
Let's Namibia continues to improve life through financial inclusion.
It's another ad.
You need a bank that offers you
Then from there you go in. We'll go in. Then you continue. Then we say, you say your goodbyes. And then after that, you can just quietly, okay, I'll call, they'll take a picture of you there.
Yeah.
And then we'll put it on our social media.
All right.
Yes, because I have to write a story.
Okay. Definitely.
Yes. Yes, it's now 15 minutes past the hour of 12 o'clock, and there was an ad there. Sorry that it interfered our conversation there, but you can continue with what you were saying.
All right, to continue, the principal risk in cybercrime is identity fraud. So try and secure your information as much as possible. Don't store your information automatically, especially your credit cards when shopping online, and refrain from clicking on ads and pop-ups that you don't know. Like those, you're gonna win 100 million, you are 100 million view or something like that, something along those lines. Try and stay away from those pop-ups. Protect your machines. Try and have what you call antivirus software. Try and have that on your devices and machines. And additional to that is update your machines regularly. I know updates can be frustrating, but what happens is the developers of your OS or your device softwares maybe have detected some type of hacking or malicious intent. And what they do is they build a patch to fix that, so that little loophole where a hacker maybe went through, and they send an update so that you update your software. And so it's not necessarily a bad thing, or your phone works well, why should you get an update? The updates are there to protect your devices, so please do update your devices regularly. In a nutshell, the internet, like any other area, is good and bad. So take the perks and use the preventative measures and security measures to protect your information as much as you possibly can, and have fun while you use it. Yeah.
Have fun while you use it. So those are the last words from Johanna Mnyela. And Johanna, let me thank you for coming, and of course, let me wish you the best, and let me wish you the best for the rest of the rest of the day, of course, and the best in all your endeavors. And of course, having been nominated to be part of the Internet Society, we would want to hear from you more.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for the well wishes. I hope to be on the show in the near future as well.
Yeah, the show is actually dedicated to tech, and every tech person is welcome to come and fill us in as to how far we are as Namibia in tech development. So you are always and more than welcome.
Thank you.
Wow. So that was Johanna Mnyela, and of course she'll be working out now. She'll be working out of the studio, and we have tapped into her knowledge. She's a software engineer, and wow, because most women are becoming software engineers, are taking up bigger titles. Yeah, they are taking up bigger tech responsibilities. I look at most of them who are tech. I listen to most of them who are tech strategists, and of course, the women empowerment thing has really worked. And Johanna is no exception. Is one of the people who formed the NOI, Namibian Optimist.
Yes, Namibian Optimist Investments.
Namibian Optimist Investment. So that's the. I actually don't want to let her go. It's like I don't want to let her go.
I can tell.
Yeah, it's like because I get impressed when because I would actually want to ask you a question, though we are done with our conversation.
It's okay.
Um,
You can go ahead.
How many women were you how many were you as ladies when you were taking this course, computer science? Because previously it was looked at as if as a
Male dominated.
male dominated course. What prompted you to be part of this course, to take this course?
We weren't many. in our class, we were about 20 students when we branched out to major, and we were only 3 women amongst the 20, so we weren't many. What prompted me to go into software engineering is that I had a very keen interest in computers, and I had computer studies in grade 9 till 10, and that kind of prompted my curiosity in creating software. We did pseudocodes. It was a black and blue and greeny screen where you could create little programs. So I was already programming in grade 10, and I saw my keen interest, and I was basically getting 10 out of 10 in the coding part of my computer science studies, and others I would maybe score a few, but I was excelling basically in coding. So when I got to grade 12, I said, maybe I should look at that area. I was very intrigued and interested.
So you were exposed to tech
Yes.
as early as grade 10.
Yes, not grade 10 advanced tech, but tech actually using a computer and everything else from grade 3. So I was very fortunate. I think my mother did well to send me to a course called Future Kids at the time, and we'd have afternoon programs where we would learn how to use computers from the age from grade 3 years.
Mm-hmm. Wow. From grade 3.
Grade 3 years.
Wow.
We used floppy disks. I think you remember in terms of storage.
Yes. Those days when the computers were built with floppy pods.
Yes.
Floppy pods.
Mm.
And now we don't even have them anymore with
Not
floppy
anymore.
disks.
With the cathode ray tube screens that had like a tube behind, and you couldn't carry it like you
Yes.
carry a laptop nowadays.
Yeah. It was actually, we started long.
Yeah.
Yeah. But hey, I'm very impressed.
Thank you.
I'm very impressed looking at you being in this fraternity as software engineer. So it is actually encouraging a lot of girls. And I was with some ladies here, some girls from high school, but it's an impressive thing. And what maybe you can encourage before you go, because there are some ladies who still feel this is a male thing.
Yes.
Yeah, they still feel it's a male. It should be a male course. They want to maybe do business administration and maybe office administration. They want to limit themselves to be secretaries.
Oh, very right. My advice would be diverse views are very important in any fraternity. And to be a female software engineer, and I see this in my teams, with guys, they want something to work and they want it to work efficiently. That's their main focus when they're creating software. So they don't necessarily bother themselves with how it looks. It could be a gray and black screen, and for as long as it works perfectly, then they're satisfied. But for a female, you go into an extra, I don't know if we come with it naturally, but I see with a lot of female developers is we opt to wanna make it more colorful. All right, so you add that diverse view and you kind of build together with the males a robust and at the same time very user-friendly system. So because we take into consideration most of the time usability. So yeah, female views are very important, and so don't shy away from software engineering if you're interested in it, because we need that diverse view to build better and more robust and more effective systems that work very well for us.
Well, then, having said that, because I actually remembered that it was not part of the questions, but
Yes.
it's something that came, and I had to ask you that. But having said that, I once again want to thank you for coming, and this time I want to release you to go and attend to your other commitments.
100%. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you very much. Yeah, you can just walk out quietly there
All right.
and just close the door there.
All right, sure.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you. I'll send you the link.
All right.
Yes.